When I was in a Pentecostal cult, we used to have these all-night confession sessions. We would begin with 2 to 3 hours of worship. The idea of this was somehow to appease God, because if we do this, then maybe God will be happy enough to listen to us and answer our prayers later. Then we would go into a couple of hours of confessing all our sins. And this could be anything from, I stubbed my toe yesterday and I swore. I looked at this person at church and I had a sexual thought. 2 to 3 hours. Then we would go into a session of confessing bad thoughts we had about the cult director, of course. Yesterday I was cooking dinner and she came in and she didn't like what I was cooking and I felt offended. Confessing all these thoughts, and it was this desperation. The feeling was like, we have to think of every single thing because we wouldn't be allowed to progress to the next part of the evening, the last part being prayer. Then we would ask God for whatever it was we were trying to get as a cult, as a group. So you had to please God, you had to get rid of everything that was in the way, then you could ask what you wanted. Which is completely bizarre. Like, if God is this almighty being, could he not do it without that? Why does he require all this ridiculous fanfare every single time? Anyway, that's a different matter. It's interesting because when I've told people stories about the cult, a lot of the time they react by going, oh yeah, that's so extreme. I can totally tell why you left Christianity because of that. And it's actually not why I left Christianity at all. I left Christianity because of deepening my understanding of the scriptures. What I think is interesting about this is that actually, yes, what we did in that cult was more extreme, but actually the practice and comes from the same theology. And you might be thinking, well, there's a basis in psychology for confessing something, getting something off your chest, being able to speak it out, being helpful and therapeutic. And sure, there is. The difference, though, in Christianity is that there's this element of coercion, because if you don't confess, there'll be some kind of consequence, some kind of punishment. The punishment may be eternal damnation, or the punishment may be just being out of the will of God. And if you're an evangelical Christian, you want to be in the will of God. It's your main goal in life. It all ends up as this practice that is so inherently unhealthy. You must confess things that we've told you are wrong, usually to authorities, otherwise you'll be punished. It can develop all kinds of psychological issues, anxiety, it can develop OCD, religious OCD. The incidence of religious OCD in Christians and ex-Christians that I've spoken to is very high. And these are things that when we're in the church, we just think of as normal. And it's only when you start to step outside that you start to question these things and go, oh, why did we do that?